Eyes of Wakanda was surprisingly good. Honestly, when I first saw the animation style, I wasn't too impressed or interested, but being by Ryan Coogler, I knew that the story would be absolutely fantastic, and I feel like it really was. And while I have seen some discourse online about it was too short, it wasn't in depth, the characters weren't believable, I feel like I disagree with almost all of that. I feel like honestly, this show was so much more than what it seems at face value. First off, my favorite thing was how this anthology series really lined up perfectly in setting up Black Panther. It really gave you so much insight into the culture and the history and the traditions that the Wakandans had that we never knew about. In fact, it made me appreciate Black Panther's decision at the end of Black Panther 1 about opening up Wakanda's borders and really showing and supporting the rest of the world. It really made that decision beautiful and showed why it is so important and what would happen if it didn't. And so I feel like this was such a great series that just really pulled back the curtains on how Wakanda works. And I know that this did focus on one specific aspect, and that's the war dogs, these kind of secret agents, 007 nature, that are put out into the world to infiltrate and reclaim Wakandan vibranium treasures that were once stolen and dispersed. And I feel like the way that they did it was really interesting, with these completely 4 different characters that somehow connected with each other and really laid the footsteps and really laid the foundation for the next episode, but not directly continuing it. And I feel like that was a really cool thing to do, as it kind of reminded me of What If, with this correlated but not connected nature, and that everything does have something that leads to the next. It's like dominoes, where everything has to fall in a certain nature, that way we can get our end scene. And I feel like honestly, I really did enjoy the show. The different characters were very interesting to me, and I could see myself in every single one of them. And honestly, I'll be honest, when I saw the cartoonish animation, I was like, this is probably meant more so for kids. But after seeing it, they have a lot of adult undertones. In fact, I would not want my kid to see this, because there were some deaths and some killings here and there that were a little bit graphic at times, and they really touched upon these hard topics that I feel like has been absent in Marvel for a couple of their projects. The loss, the betrayal, the truth, the core hard dedication to your mission. If anything, it reminds me of the Winter Soldier and how he has these programmable codes where he is following his mission and nothing else, and that's really what was replicated throughout this show. But how, just like Bucky broke through his code, the Wakandans were able to break through their traditions of centuries and decades long in order to really find out and figure out what their mission is for each of them individually. And that's what I really enjoyed about this show, and I feel like it wasn't overbearing Marvel just beating your head with references to such. In fact, they brought in real life experience, such as the Battle of Troy and seeing Achilles, which was really cool. Seeing Marvel totally embrace all the cultures. It wasn't just African Wakandan culture that we saw in the show, but Chinese and also Greek, and I feel like that just infusion of so many different things made it so interesting for me. I'm not a history buff by any means, but seeing something that I read about in class in the show and being related to something that's completely not a relatable in real life made me more interested and curious in that fantastical nature that Stan Lee really brought to his comics. This isn't stuff that happens in real life. We have no Hulk or no Spider-Man. There could be an Iron Man one day, but that's just not how the world functions at this current place and time. And so it's really cool to see that energy brought back, but in a totally different style and tone that really flips it all on its head, and from an African lens, which we don't see that often. Living in America, we don't prioritize African or African Americans' perspectives, and I feel like as someone who is African American myself, it was kind of cool to really see more about how Wakandan lifestyle worked. And yes, it didn't focus on the actual Wakandan hemisphere and more so on the external aspects. I feel like it still was really interesting to see, and I feel like it gave me a better grasp on the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. And I feel like, of course, with Ryan Coogler and already Ironheart not doing as well as we wanted it to, people are gonna look down upon it just because it's about minority-led shows and it's about minority-led concepts and ideas and perspectives. And I feel like just in America, we're not in a place right now where we're leaning into that differences and others and really being susceptible and open-minded. So I feel like this show did a great job for me of forcing us to take a step back and really just think, how does our culture differ and how does our culture compare to others? And yes, this is a touchy subject, as slavery was such a big part of our history in America and in Africa, and we're focusing on a nation that didn't really have to experience that. And in fact, in this fantastical world, they put that on other people. So I feel like it was really cool to see this reverse dynamic and made for a very interesting anthological series. I really do love these, such as What If 1, Season 1, 2, and 3, and I hope that Marvel continues to make them because they are interesting and one-off shows that add so much context and perspective to different cultures and civilizations that we never really would have gotten because they just didn't happen in real life. So I really do encourage you to watch this show, as it was a great watch and a fun time. And if you're not a fan of the animation like myself, then it's okay. Honestly, I feel like there were points that I really did love, such as the deep hues of purple and gold that really resemble and, you know, resonate with that Wakandan power, nature, and royalty. So please let me know down in the comments below, will you give Eyes of Wakanda a chance? Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I will see you next time.